Good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's Right Resources Investor webinar. My name is David Tasker, and I'll be hosting today's session with Graham Howard, Managing Director of Right Resources. Graham will begin with a presentation on the latest developments at Tumbarumba, including the Blue Tungsten Prospect and the broader gold tungsten opportunity. After that, we'll move into questions that have been received from investors over recent days, and they will be giving you a greater opportunity to understand the size of the opportunity being presented. Graham, thanks for joining us, and I will now hand over to you.
Thanks, David, and welcome everyone. So what we're going to do today is go through a very exciting news flow on what we've been doing both in Tumbarumba and New England. Next slide, please. Please note the forward-looking statements and disclaimers. Next slide, please. The company is in a unique position compared to its peers. We're very fortunate because what we've found is not a ore body, not a large ore body, not a cluster of ore bodies. What we've found is we've got our foot on a new metallogenic province, and we have over 1,980 square kilometres of secured contiguous tenements. And that basically includes the highly prospective pilot gold project and our recent district scale tungsten discovery at the Blue Prospect. Tungsten is a strategic mineral, and as such, that is enabling conversations of strategic nature with respect to that mineral. We have an experienced team that understands how to deliver projects. And today we're going to go through the framework on how we're going to do that. Next slide, please. So first of all is getting confidence about what the company is seeing. And we do so by working with CODES, which is one of the preeminent organisations in the world in understanding ore body formation. So there's a couple in the world, and CODES is located in the University of Tasmania, led by Professor Cook. So what the company has done, working with CODES over the last 12 months, is identified a series of new types of ore systems not normally identified in Australia. And they include reduced intrusive related gold systems. And those systems are typically found in the Alaskan Yukon area. And I've got a slide on that in a minute. The province is, we've got a whole series of ore bodies formed from hydrothermal systems, and we'll talk about that in this presentation. Because we're a first mover, we actually have secured a really large footprint. And CODES provides independent validation of that work. So if you're a strategic and watching this, you then basically see that CODES is supporting the company's views. That gives strategics confidence in what we are doing. So today we're going to look at the Tintina Gold Province, which is, as I said, in Alaska and Yukon, and we'll talk about some of the largest gold and tungsten deposits in North America and why we think we've got our foot on one of these systems. So this is all about unlocking discovery, and it's about getting the roadmap of a city, if you like. So metal zonation tells you where the suburbs of a city are, and structural framework tells you where the roads are to the best houses in that suburb. So today, let's see what we can talk about. Okay, next slide, please. So let's look at what do we mean by a metallogenic province. So they're typically really big. So here we have one up in North America called the Tintina Gold Province. It's over 1,500 kilometres long. It's bounded by two major lithocrustal fault structures, and they basically have a series of different ore bodies, including gold and tungsten. It is a highly fertile area, and what it means is that there's single ore bodies to clusters of ore bodies, and from that there's a lot of metal and in-ground value in those areas. Next slide, please. So let's compare the two provinces. So as I said, Tumbarumba is an emerging province. We have a major lithocrustal fault called the Gilmore Fault to the east of us, and to the west of us we have the Tumbarumba Fault. This whole area has basically been missed by the majors as an area where there are reduced intrusive related gold systems. And what we have are low sulfide content, but a whole lot of quartz and chlorite sheeted veins, which are typical to what is found in the Tintina Gold Province. We see the metal zonation, where gold is associated with bismuth, tellurium, and tungsten, and also arsenic, and we'll talk about that in a future slide. And we also have the right rocks. So we have reduced ilmenite series, granodiorites, which host the sequence. Plus we have the structural framework, which is driven by the Gilmore fault system. Next slide, please. So there's the Gilmore trending in the northerly direction over hundreds of kilometres. And you can see the yellow down the southern end, basically what is our ground. So there are 8 tenements, which gives us contiguous tenure over this, which allows us to continuously explore across the whole tenement package. So it's equivalent to an area much bigger than the City of London and more akin to the size of the city of Tokyo. So this is a really large contiguous area. To the northeast of us is the Macquarie Arc, which contains some of the largest gold systems in New South Wales, including such as the Cadia Valley operation. Next slide, please. So zooming now into Pilot. So Pilot, we thought, was a 2.4 by 2.9 kilometre target. It has got historically very high grade underground workings, but there was no drill holes completed in this area. So no drill holes. The closest drill hole before we turned up is 50 kilometres away. So basically our surface mapping indicated that there was gold in veins between 0.1 and 56 grams per tonne. So we could see that there were high grade vein sets and also low grade vein sets. So having a mix of both is important. Plus we have a whole series of anomalies that we've identified from our geophysics work. So the Pilot area is in fact expanding, and it is now at least 8 kilometres by 3.5 kilometres. And we'll talk a bit about that in another slide in this presentation. Next slide, please. So Pilot, we're very, very happy with the results that we have achieved with our drilling. We confirm the proof of concept that a significant gold mineralisation system sits at Pilot. So what does that all mean? It means that we have drilled under some workings. We've hit trends in mineralisation. We now know that there are 5 different vein styles that contain gold. And now we know they are linked to northeast trending fault structures. So it's not just north-south. Now we're seeing evidence that substantial gold mineralisation is actually parallel these northeast trending faults, which means it's opening up the potential of this area. So the gold results that we have reported to date are actually in zones parallel to these northeast trending faults. We originally thought this was a porphyry system, but the work that we have done and the work that independently Codes has done now prove it is not a porphyry system, but it is actually looking like an emerging, reduced intrusive related gold system. And this is a very large complex, over 8 kilometres by 3.5 kilometres in size. So if we look at the Tintina gold systems, some of the largest gold systems in the world occur there, and they are hundreds of millions of tonnes at a grades of 0.4 up to 10 grams per tonne. So the grades we are seeing here are very much aligned with what you see in the Tintina Gold Province. So we are very confident that we have confirmed the proof of concept. So this is all about understanding the framework and all about understanding metal zonation, and knowing where we are in the system. So if we go to the next slide, we can see from this slide, it's a schematic which shows in the core of the system is the intrusives, and then there's zonation from that. So you've got a gold, bismuth, tellurium, plus or minus tungsten core, and that grades out to a transitional, which is a gold arsenic and a gold antimony arsenic. And then the very outside is the base metals, such as lead, zinc, and there is even silver associated with those. So knowing where you are in the map is crucial. So again, if we take our city and go, where is the best suburbs of that city? It's akin to that. So we now know where we are in the reduced intrusive related gold system. The map is the metal zonation. Moving on to the next slide, please. So what Pilot has done is it's actually opened up a series of other opportunities. And one of those opportunities is 50 kilometres to the north of us, which is the Blue Prospect. This is a recent discovery. So using the data that we gained from Pilot, we are now moving and exploring in this area. So we have completed soil sampling and outcrop mapping, and that has identified a 4.7 by 3.4 kilometre soil anomaly. This is still open, and we sense that this will continue both to the east and to the north, as well as to the west. We are seeing outcrops with fantastic grades. So what we're seeing there are zones of veins, 20 metres to 70 metres wide, with individual veins about 40 centimetres wide. These veins are dominated by quartz and maybe some tourmaline, and they have substantial amounts of tungsten minerals. So tungsten oxide minerals such as scheelite, and then we also have the primary tungsten minerals such as wolframite. So what this means is that if you in the field have a UV light, you can actually identify tungsten in the field. We also, our field teams carry an XRF machine, which allows us to analyse if this indeed carries tungsten as well. So you can see that the fluorescence here is a blue colour. This is the mineral scheelite. Next slide, please. So it's all about scale. Scale is really important because if this is just a small deposit, then it doesn't have much scope. But what scale gives you is it actually enables discussions of a strategic nature. So remember, it starts with technical confidence, that flows into strategic corporation confidence, and then that flows into investor confidence. So this is an example of this. We had technical confidence from the work we did at Pilot. This enabled the discovery of the Blue Prospect tungsten anomaly. The rock outcrops give us an idea of the type of form of mineralisation. So the fact that we can see visible tungsten minerals and bismuth minerals gives us a lot of confidence. And that is translating into strategic conversations. Next slide, please. So again, looking at the grades. So typically our peers have grades of tungsten trioxide of 0.1 to 0.3%. The veins themselves here are very high grade, even though they might be short strike length, but there's a lot of veins in a zone. And those zones have continuity. And that is what our geology teams are doing. They're mapping these zones and understanding where they go. And from that, we are currently planning a drill program to actually test some of these vein trends. So once again, you can see the fluorescence in the photos. And then in normal light, you can see what tungsten looks like in normal light below. So next slide, please. So on top of all of those two major deposits, which, as I said, are 8 by 3 kilometres for Pilot, and 4.7 by 3.4 kilometres for blue. We also have the Storm project, which is a very large footprint, and Codes is undertaking further analysis to understand that mineralisation system. At Bullseye, we have a large system, which is again 8.5 by 7 kilometres, with copper grades up to 0.2% and individual gold grades up to 46 grams per tonne. And Laurel Hill is a series of these circular features, which include a prospect called Halloumi, which has gold grades up to 2.2 grams per tonne, again in quartz veins. So this shows that we don't have one gold system. We don't have a cluster of gold systems. What we have is a metallogenic province. Next slide, please. So we're going to now jump up to New England because we're actually progressing nicely in this area as well. So we recently, in February, put out an exploration target for the Kingston gold and silver prospect. That prospect actually sits on a northeast trending fault system, which we now believe to be a fertile fault system. Kingston, in the small area that we've looked at, is got about 300 to 400 kilotons of material at gold grades of 3.7 to 4.9 grams per tonne. So the fact that we've identified a fertile gold fault means that there's plenty of upside for this project. And Mary Reed is a silver prospect which sits to the east of Kingston. We expect to have more news flow on our New England tenements in the near term. Next slide, please. So we've got an experienced board. Our current market cap is sitting around 12 million. We have around 111 million shares on issue, and we have cash reserves to continue our exploration activity. So there's a good news story with respect to how we discover and progress the company. Next slide, please. Okay, so what are the key catalysts for news flow? So in the near term, we're going to have a lot of news around Pilot, so with the release of Hole 2 results. So the company is sitting back and understanding what is going on with the total system at Pilot and where the gold sits. So as I said previously, there are now 5 different types of vein systems that we need to understand because those vein systems carry gold. That flows into the broader Codes reduced intrusive loaded gold system district update, and that will have a structural component and also multi-commodity component. So there's a lot more to this story than just gold. And then we'll also have near-term news flow on the Blue prospect, which is based on all the work we're doing. In the midterm, we obviously are moving to get drill approval for the Blue project, and we also have further new approvals for drilling at Pilot. So Pilot remains a core focus for this company. We're undertaking metallurgical test work at Blue and also Pilot. And the reason why we're doing that is we need to understand the metallurgical features or characteristics of these ore systems so we can target the relevant mineralisation to ensure the maximum recoveries. And then ongoing, we have strategic partnership and funding discussions. Plus, we've been very successful recently with the grant of new tenure. And we're working alongside with Codes who are independently verifying the results of the company. Next slide, please. So, in conclusion, the company is in a unique position. We have our foot on a significant amount of contiguous ground, which is part of a new metallogenic province. As I said before, juniors typically only have part of an ore body, or if they're really lucky, one ore body in a giant complex. We don't even have a series of clusters of ore bodies. What we have is a metallogenic province. And that opens up all sorts of strategic opportunities. The pilot gold project is highly prospective, and we know already that there is high grades and also low grades. And those low grades and high grades are all consistent with other reduced intrusive related gold systems that we see, such as in the Tintina gold province. The discovery of the tungsten project at Blue Prospect basically demonstrates that we have learnt from the pilot project and we're looking for new styles of deposits. And the tungsten is a critical mineral and is of strategic importance. We have an experienced team who understands how to actually take this to the markets. And from this, we drive technical confidence, strategic corporation confidence, and then that flows into investor confidence. Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks, Graham. A really useful overview, and there's clearly been a lot happening at Tumbarumba, particularly around Blue, the expanding tungsten anomaly, and the technical work supporting the broader RIGS, I apologise if I spelled that incorrectly or pronounced it incorrectly, model. We have received a number of investor questions, so I'll work through those now. An obvious one that has come through quite a lot is, what made you decide, or the board decide, to bring in codes so early? Because it's clearly yielded significant results, but that decision to bring them in must have been driven by something.
Okay, so obviously that's a great question. So why did we bring them in is that we don't have a tier one budget. We don't have hundreds of millions of dollars to spend on our exploration. What the partnership with Codes has done is that we get access to an incredible database, which is only the remit of the tier ones. And secondly, we get access to incredible academic excellence and leading edge technology that again is only in the remit of the tier ones. So what we are doing is effectively creating a pseudo tier one environment, which allows us to rapidly process data to actually identify new opportunities for our investors.
I suppose a secondary question off that, you went into this project essentially thinking it was a copper porphyry project, and the initial results clearly didn't yield the gold and other outputs that the market thought was coming. But the introduction, or the work that Codes has done, has really unlocked the opportunity here. How hard was it to stay the line, given the early results clearly didn't meet the market expectations?
Well, that's a great question again. So we went into this thinking that we had a hybrid porphyry. In fact, we found porphyries. The porphyries are there. And as we continue to analyse this data with Codes independently verifying, it became very obvious that we had found something that was not a porphyry. In fact, it's something that is not recognised typically in Australia. And it is the fact that we have found a giant reduced intrusive related gold system, which has a unique profile. And the reason why we found that is that we have a lot of experience in our team who was looking at the results going, it just does not seem right, and yet we're seeing the gold. Is the gold a problem? No, because if you look at reduced intrusive related gold systems in the Yukon and Alaska, the gold grades we're seeing and the gold form we're seeing in the sheeted veins and the magnitude of gold ranging from 0.4 all the way to very high grade, because remember that high grade is still sitting at pilot, that is consistent with reduced intrusive related gold systems. Now, the one thing that became very apparent as we were progressing with our drilling Because remember, we started drilling in late November, taking in all of the data. And then by February, we were starting to form a view that perhaps fire assay was not the appropriate methodology. And I think we've demonstrated that now, that we have to go to a large mass photon or screen fire method because of the nuggety gold, which is consistent with nuggety gold in other reduced intrusive related gold systems. So all of these elements have come together to be actually a positive rather than a negative. And whilst some in the market may be not understanding the story, what we must do is communicate to the market that we actually have an incredible story here and have found a new metallogenic province. And we've been able to do that by not only drilling from the very beginning. Our first drill hole intercepted substantial mineralisation. Remember, there was no previous drilling, and there effectively are very few junior explorers who could claim that they have drilled their first hole into a mineralised system. So we were very successful. So proof of concept, we've done it. Have we found the highest grade areas? No, we haven't. Have we identified the roadmap? Yes, we have. And what this is all about is putting it all together and then basically targeting the right areas to find the best zones of metal.
So I just want to break a question in half here that you touched on during the presentation. One is the awareness this project has both based on both the results to date, but also what Codes is saying and believes, and how that tool is also used by majors. So the first question is, have you awakened the interest of major groups who follow what Codes does? And the second is, how do you educate the retail investors who don't quite understand the Codes work and the importance of it? So you, at one end, you've got retail investors who, and other similar style of investors who need education. On the other side, you've got majors who watch what Codes do, I assume on a very close basis. How are the two different audiences taking this news?
Another great question. Thank you, David. So let's try to answer that. So basically, what Codes is doing is independently verifying the company's work. So what that translates to is the strategic corporations use Codes in their own major ore systems. So they have confidence in the work that Codes has. They have confidence in the leading edge technology that Codes use. So the fact that Codes is actually researching this area with interest, so there's a team of PhDs working on this. They understand, and obviously, as we put out announcements and Codes puts out research papers, what this actually means. And basically, it provides strategic corporation confidence. So the bottom line is to have the people like Professor Cook and Dr. Tester involved gives gravitas to the work that the company is undertaking. And that is a key enabler for strategic conversations. Can I discuss what's going on? No, I can't. But can I say that there is strategic conversations going on? We've highlighted that to the market.
And what about the retail investors? How do you bring them along and educate them on the importance? Or is it just keep unpacking the layers of the onion and essentially giving them the lights to, if this is what everyone believes it to be, these are the milestones you've got to watch as we take away the risk on this project?
Yeah, it's a complex question, because we would love to just put on market fantastic drill hole results. But this game is all about identifying the mineralised framework, and then getting the right areas and drilling it. Remember, the very first hole, we were super successful in actually intersecting a mineralized horizon. Now, that hole could easily have gone into nothing. It didn't. It actually found a key mineralized zone, which incidentally is not trending north-south. It's actually trending northeast. So that's opened up a whole lot of opportunities. And we've also been able to understand the metal zonation and the types of veins, and then we start looking for where they all sit. And that basically leads to finding the best areas. So have we been able to provide a knockout punch to retail? No, we can't. But what retail investors can do is sit back and watch the strategics' behaviour. And some of our announcements have been very technical of nature recently. And what that is it's putting on market the information that we have been discovering a new metallogenic province, which is of great interest to multiple different types of strategic corporations. And we intend to put more technical information out there. And this is all about providing strategics with information. And retail investors will be able to see this behaviour and then understand that the company is in conversations, which we cannot reveal. Okay.
Just vectoring a little bit on Blue, what gives you the confidence that Blue's more than just a surface anomaly and could represent a significant tungsten system?
Okay, so it's the same sort of story at Pilot. We're undertaking all the geophysics and surface work. Codes is obviously undertaking research using leading edge technology. That basically tells us where we are in the system. It tells us the fact that the soil data tells us that it's over it's about 5 kilometres by 3 kilometres in size already. It's open in all directions. There's metal zonation. We can see moly and bismuth and tungsten. We suspect there'll be localized gold occurrences as well, which we're looking for. So is it going to be big and deep? The answer is we haven't drilled the holes. We are getting approval to drill the holes. That will confirm that information. So I can't really comment about depth. What I can tell you is in road cuttings, when we're driving along, these road cuttings are over 30 or 40 metres high, and you can see the mineralisation in the road cuttings. So is it going to be, just surface? No. Is it in the road cuttings? Yes, it is. How deep does it go? Don't know. We have to drill it.
The work that Codes has done in particular, from my understanding, the more information you're getting, the more it's helping you better understand the project. Is it a case of you're going to have some hits, you're going to have some misses along the way, but every bit of information helps? Like, I almost get the sense, and there's a question here about the initial drilling and the initial results that the market didn't jump excitedly at, but it almost was one of the key things that unlocked the knowledge that Codes needed to really understand what this project was all about.
Well, that's right. So I'll say it again. We were very successful in our first hole. We hit mineralisation. And basically what that diamond hole did is it provided key samples which allowed the company and Codes to go and analyse. And then all of a sudden, that forced a change in how we thought about the total Tumbarumba area. Because remember, previously, no one thought there were major ore systems in the Tumbarumba area. And those drill holes, and as you said, drill hole results can be hit and miss. And there's plenty of examples of a lot of misses in the early stages of any major ore system. The fact that we have in every hole to date hit mineralisation basically tells us that we are pretty good at finding the mineralisation trends. have we found the best parts of the system? Well, as I said before in the presentation, we've got a roadmap. We know where we have to go. So we will just continue to work and demonstrate on how big, so scale, and where the different grades are. So we're going to be in areas of low grade and some areas of high grade. And that's all part of understanding the giant pilot reduced intrusive related gold system.
A good question here that has come through a few times. How do you maximize value and not give up value too early?
Well, that's another great question. So the company is very focused on the cost of exploration, and it understands that a junior can only do so much. So what we're really doing is identifying these large systems to actually trigger opportunities to have conversations with strategics who potentially will farm in and joint venture into the various projects that we have. So examples, New England is a classic area where the company has been doing work and identified a lot of really interesting ground. The tungsten anomaly. We did not go off looking for tungsten from day one. This is a follow-on from the work we did at Pilot. But the tungsten itself basically enables conversations with tungsten vertical integration stream groups who might be interested in securing tungsten. And that might trigger offtake or joint venture or farming. And then finally, we move back to Pilot, show the scale and show the opportunity, and the tier one gold producers will definitely be talking.
Just touching on that, are you surprised, or maybe not, given the way the company was structured from day one and the groups that are working with it, both from an advisory point of view and within the board and executive, but are you surprised that literally off rock chip samples, literally off initial drill results, the quality of the conversations that you're having with potential partners?
Well, and again, you've got to look at it as a complete roadmap. So it's not just a few rock chip samples. It's not just the mobile magnetotelluric surveys or the ground mag surveys. It's not just the drill holes. It's the fact that we have codes sitting there doing independent work using leading edge technologies. And basically, it basically wraps the whole lot into it. So when you're a strategic, you look at this and go, this is really interesting. I need to know more. And that basically, and I'll say it again, technical confidence basically enables strategic corporation confidence, which then flows into investor confidence. And that is our roadmap.
So looking ahead, what are the key milestones investors should watch over the next 3 to 6 months as you continue to unlock the opportunity here?
Well, there'll be a lot of news flow, David, on the metallogenic province. Okay, so we're flagging, look what we've got. And it won't be just gold and tungsten. There'll be other opportunities because that's what metallogenic provinces do. They don't just have gold or some other secondary mineral. So there's other opportunities there. And the reason for it is that in these provinces and at Tumbarumba, there's multiple phases of intrusives, which means that there's multiple phases of ore forming hydrothermal systems. Okay, so that's what we've got our mind on. And that we need to put out there, and that will trigger a whole lot of strategic interest. Then you move into the deposits themselves, and that basically enables more specific conversations with mid or tier one groups on what they would like to do in those areas. So it's the news flow will be about metallogenic province, Pilot, and the blue anomalies, plus, as I said, these other emerging opportunities.
Graham, thanks for your time today, and thanks for everyone who submitted questions over the recent weeks. For further information, please refer to Right Resources' recent ASX announcements and investor materials. Thanks, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks, Graham.